here. So my name is John Melvin. I'm delighted to be working with you over the next 14 weeks just to introduce you to some of the features of the tourism sector. So if you need to get in touch with me, this is my address here, or I'll be happy to discuss things with you in class as always. So lecture one, first of all, welcome. Thank you for choosing this class. We do have a big range of classes here at GIS, over 200 different content classes, but thank you for choosing to join me with this introduction to tourism studies. So today we'll have a quick look at the course and class introduction, the teaching approach that this course will adopt. Course assessment, how to get a good grade, which obviously you're all very interested in, and also to consider the question, why tourism? Why do we need to study it? So firstly, a very brief introduction to myself before we carry on. So you've probably worked out I'm from the UK. I was born in Scotland, and a few years ago now, I was a freshman at Aberdeen University, and I did history and politics originally there. After a few years teaching in Japan, I went back to the UK for some additional study. I did a master's in tourism marketing at Edinburgh Napier University, my home city, and then I got a scholarship to complete my PhD at Nottingham University in tourism marketing. I've got a range of teaching experience, over 14 years now teaching in Japan, some business experience as well, and also some event management experience, and all of this I will try and use to help provide some illustrative examples of some of the things we will encounter in class. So in the class we'll look at a variety of things related to the organisation and the sustainable development of tourism. So this idea of sustainability is now very important in a variety of fields, and you will encounter it in a lot of your classes here at GIS. As it mentions at the slide, we will look at a range of theoretical and practical approaches towards tourism, and just apply these to a range of contexts and case studies, sometimes in Japan, sometimes from other countries. So class code of conduct, please follow these rules for a more effective environment, study environment for us all. So please make sure you do your homework. I'm sure you will, but also class preparation as well. So before every class you'll be able to access the slides, the lecture slides on our class management system, and please preview these to make sure you're ready for what's coming up in class. It'll give you a chance to check out some perhaps new vocabulary, new expressions, and also maybe get used to my Scottish accent as well. Please speak English unless otherwise instructed, but we're all from a range of backgrounds here, so please make sure everything is done in English. Respect others' opinions, so there'll be lots of class interaction during this course. It is not a passive class like all GIS classes. There is an interactive learning approach. So you'll not be just sitting taking notes. You'll be instead asked to play a very active role in your learning here. So there will obviously be some lectures, but there will be a lot of group discussions. I'll be asking questions of the class. So please feel free to share your answers based on your own views, your own background, your own experiences as well. So please respect others' opinions. So some of the issues we look at, they're not black and white. There's no right and wrong answer either. So please respect the right of others to have different opinions to you, and they will do the same for you. If you have to disagree, please do it objectively. And as I said, please understand that we're all very different in terms of our background and our opinions. So please respect this. It's very important you participate in classes. A lot of you have spent considerable time overseas. Maybe you were born there, you lived there for a few years or studied there. So please bring this experience to class. You've probably been to places that I've never been to, other students have never been to. So if you find that it illustrates a point we're talking about in class, then please share this, and we can all benefit. You'll enrich everyone's learning experience. It's also important that you take part out of class too. I'll be seeing you for 100 minutes, obviously, every class, but participate in online discussions. Sometimes we'll have chats going on on the class management page online, and also your group project, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. So how to get a good grade? Basically, you're all interested in finding an interesting subject and doing well in class here. So 3 ways. Class participation is worth 30% of your grade. This does not mean simply attending. This means punctual submission of homework, answering questions in class, participating in group discussions, and being active online through the forum discussions that we will be having throughout the semester. Also, group presentation and report. This is worth 30% of your overall grade as well. Each group will be able to choose a destination. I will assign a range of destinations and you can choose one of these, and then you'll do additional learning, additional research to find out about some of the issues facing these destinations. Finally, the exam will be 40%. I'll give you more details about this later on in the class. But very important to note, your final grade includes peer assessment. So this is to encourage good group work. That every group member should ideally contribute effectively and make similar contributions to the other group members. So at the end of the group work, each student will submit a report, just a brief report, giving a grade to the other group members, and hopefully you all get the same grade if you've all contributed more or less equally. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and if you worked harder, then hopefully you'll get rewarded and get a higher grade even within the same group there. So what's coming up? So hopefully you've had a look at the syllabus already, which is why you're here watching this video. But just to show you some of the things we're looking at. So today, an introduction to the course contents and class format. Next week, the structure of tourism, organisation of tourism. Week 3, tourists, different types, typologies of tourists. And then week 4 is looking at the impacts of tourism in developed and developing countries. Week 5 will look at sustainability in more detail there, how to manage tourism more sustainably. And then week 6 we'll be looking at tourism marketing and management. Week 7, the impact of technology, and week 8 we'll be looking at a case study, going to Venice in Italy to look at some of the issues of destination management there. Week 9 will be event tourism, and week 10 we'll be looking at the vulnerability of tourism to crises and disasters. Later on, towards the end of the semester, we'll be looking at tourism in Japan, having a week of group presentations based on your group reports, and then the last 2 weeks we'll be looking at future developments of tourism, how tourism might change in the future, and then obviously the exam at the end. So, what is tourism? Why is tourism different? Why is tourism important? So, if you imagine tourism, each of us will have a different image that comes into your heads when you hear the word and imagine an ideal activity. An interesting quote by Mark Twain: travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. So, broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. It was valid when Mark Twain wrote this, and it's still valid now. We'll look at this during the course, that tourism can be a great way to learn not just about other cultures, other ways of life, other natural resources, cultural resources, but also to learn more about ourselves and our own cultures, things we've maybe taken for granted. When I hear the word tourism, I imagine this: no busy Yamanote trains, no busy stations, peace and quiet, just me, no noisy children, no work emails, etc. Just me on a lovely beach with a lovely emerald blue sea to enjoy swimming. This is my image, but we'll all have very different images of what tourism means to us. Some of us will like adventure tourism, adrenaline rush of activities like bungee jumping, mountain biking, skydiving, etc. Others will be interested more in the food, the local gastronomy of a destination. Some of us events, shopping, who knows? There's a wide range of different forms of tourism. From a A demand-side definition, that's us tourists from our perspective, Cooper et al. View tourism as this movement of people and their stay in various places or destinations for less than a year. So it's quite important to get an accurate definition of what exactly we mean when we hear this word tourism. So basically, this idea of journey and stay are away from our normal environment. There's this idea of time, stay is temporary, and also there must be an element of leisure. From the company's perspective, from organisations' perspective, tourism is seen as all the organisations, the firms, the facilities, all the infrastructure that we need that serve the specific needs and wants of tourists. So, thinking of Japan, when I first came to Japan, maid cafes, Akihabara, simply it wasn't a tourist destination. It was a place you went to buy a TV or a video before DVDs, PlayStations, etc. But now it's a very popular tourist destination. You get guided tours of maid cafes, and you can visit scenes based on animes and mangas. Alternatively, very different scenario. Tourism resources, tourism infrastructure. This is obviously New York. This is the site of the Twin Towers Memorial to honour and remember those who were caught up in the disaster in 2001 here. So people go here to learn, to feel the special atmosphere, and just hopefully that such events can be avoided in the future just through learning about what's happened there. Randomly as well, tourism involves travelling for medical treatment, a very fast-growing and a very valuable, lucrative form of tourism is medical tourism, especially in developing countries. That's the private hospitals in these countries can be much cheaper for people in developed countries, and it can be an enjoyable experience travelling to a foreign country, getting some world-class medical treatment, and then recovering in perhaps a more comfortable atmosphere than is available in your home country. So, especially in week 3, we'll look at different tourist types and also their different interests, their characteristics, and their needs. One of the reasons I first became interested in tourism studies was just how interdisciplinary they are. So, all of these issues tie into tourism studies and can add greatly to our understanding of a situation, the different factors at play, what's happening and why it is happening. So this course is an introductory course. It features some economics and marketing, business management, and also some sociology and psychology as well. I did history and politics as an undergraduate, and that's very useful in just understanding tourism flows between countries, for example, and the relations between countries. So we've talked about what tourism is. It could be considered to be any of these different things here. A human right. The United Nations defines the right to travel as one of our human rights. So certainly people recently have been taking full advantage of this, often enjoying several overseas and domestic holidays every year. If you think about it, tourism is very irrational. If you have a part-time job, maybe you save your money over several months working hard, and then for one weekend, one day, maybe 1 week, you spend it all on an experience, something intangible that you cannot touch, and when you come back you have nothing to show for it. Obviously you might have changed inside, but physically you don't have anything compared to a product. If you buy a computer, a bag, a pair of shoes, you have something tangible. But tourism, it's all experience. It's very gone, can be easily forgotten. Also lots of things can go wrong if you think about it. You could get lost, you could get attacked, there could be a natural disaster, your suitcase could go one place, you go to another. Lots of terrible things could happen, but we love it. Millions of us, billions of us travel around the world, and it is irrational why we do all these things. It could be argued that it's an essential part of life-work balance to help studying hard, working hard, and then travelling can help to just recharge the batteries and give you the energy to carry on when you come back. Some sociologists believe tourism is a means of self-expression and identity definition. Just the places we go, how we present these on social media can be a very powerful way of just showing others who we are, what type of activities we want to be seen to be doing. So that is one other way of viewing tourism as well. Just like the products we buy, the brands we wear, Apple and Louis Vuitton bags, Converse shoes, all these things are brands that we support, we identify with, and we're happy to show these to the outside world, to other people. As we'll see later on, tourism is very important for economic development. It's a way to reduce poverty, create jobs. It can be a very effective way in enhancing cross-cultural understanding as we travel to other cultures and learn about them, and also we can question more about our own culture too. It's also a threat to host communities. As we'll see later on, the impacts of tourism can be quite serious to host communities, host environments. So why are governments so keen on tourism? It's worth considering just the growth of tourism, especially in the last 20 or 30 years. And you can see it's a graph showing historical and future predicted tourism arrivals from 1950 all the way up to 2030. So this was produced by the UNWTO, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, and it looks at the different continents: Africa, Middle East, Americas, Asia and the Pacific, and Europe. And international arrivals, people travelling from one country to another in this period here. So you can see after a slow start, it's been growing pretty steadily with a few bumps. The Gulf War, the Lehman crash, the economic problems that the world economy experienced. But since then, it's been growing very steadily. And in 2013, 1 billion international arrivals were recorded, a huge number, and it's predicted to continue growing pretty steadily. Governments love tourism because it creates jobs, it creates annual economic growth, and it boosts economies, national economies, and local economies as well. Statistically, 1 in 11 of us will be working in tourism after you graduate, either directly or indirectly. So, big benefits to countries from an economic perspective. Right here in Japan, for a long time, tourism was viewed as a frivolous, a fun activity, nothing serious. But after decades of this attitude, Prime Minister Koizumi, in the early 2000s, he certainly realised the potential of tourism to not just help Japan's economy, but also to boost the local regions in Japan that are away from the main areas, that are suffering from population growth, weak economies, and even a falling population as well. So this is identifying the government's strong commitment, strong interest in promoting international tourism to Japan here. So the economies in a lot of areas in Japan have been stagnant for a long time, so very quiet, not growing. And so tourism is viewed as a way to rejuvenate, bring new energy, new life into local economies, and to create expanded employment opportunities. Also, governments are aware that tourism has this ripple effect. It's also called the multiplier effect, where basically tourism money, tourists come from other destinations into a particular place, and their money will spread through the local economy, creating jobs, boosting local shops, local businesses, generating taxes, salaries, etc. here. So this is from the British economy, but the concept is the same in any country. It can just help money flow through the economy, boosting many different economical sectors here. The impact and benefits of tourism, it can be very positive, bring economic benefits, it can help local communities, but certainly to consider tourism more fully it's worth considering not just the benefits but also the negative impacts tourism can have, especially on less developed countries, LDCs. So looking at tourism impacts and the economic impact as well, we'll look certainly in week 4, week 5 and week 8 at the different impacts that tourism can have. One key issue in trying to better understand tourism in a variety of different contexts is the need to consider different groups, different stakeholders who are concerned with tourism, they're affected by tourism some way, and they have a stake, they hold a stake in the outcome of a particular situation there. So one of the challenges in tourism, as it says here, are the multiple stakeholders. So different groups, could be local community groups, media, conservation groups, local government, tourism companies, hotels, guide companies. Lots of different groups are interested in tourism, and unfortunately there will be power imbalances. Some of these will naturally be more powerful politically and economically than others. Also, stakeholders will have different motivations. If we look at these different sectors here, we can consider the goals of each of these different types of stakeholders. So this is just an online introduction. If this was in class, I would put students into small groups and they would discuss this together, trying to consider the different goals of these different sectors. So small groups are very good for discussions and in sharing ideas, and then the groups would then report back in front of the class here. So private sector organisations are usually interested in profit with a short-term focus from their business activities there. Not all the time, but in general, this is the case. Governments have a much wider goal with regards to tourism. So in some aspects, it could be international prestige, that if lots of visitors are coming to the country, it's a sign that the country is a popular destination, an attractive destination, that other countries, people in other countries find the culture, the resources appealing. As well as economic growth, wanting to create jobs, governments have to try and safeguard, to preserve some of the resources in a country. If it's natural resources like beaches, coral reefs, Mount Fuji here in Japan, or built resources such as temples, castles and things like that. So if too many visitors come, then it's good economically, but this can have a negative impact on the local people, local communities, local environment as well. NGOs, non-governmental organisations and non-profit organisations often have a single issue they will focus on. Could be environmental protection, conservation of endangered animals, or community welfare. So they will have perhaps very different views to the private sector about encouraging tourism. Sometimes United Nations, UNESCO, which manage World Heritage Sites, they're interested in looking after unique resources for the benefit of future generations. So each of these different stakeholders will be more or less powerful, will have different objectives from tourism, and it's very difficult for governments to try and manage some kind of balance between these competing stakeholders and their different desires. Governments as well, some government departments will like to preserve, look after local tourism resources, provide and manage the infrastructure, the services, try and encourage more people, more of the citizens to visit museums, visit temples and castles, to learn about the culture of the country, educate, to pass on the culture to younger generations, create jobs obviously, and also to market and manage tourism at the destination level and the national level, to sell the country, to market the country overseas. So it's very, very challenging for governments. Sometimes within governments, different departments will have different views here. And this leads us into our case study. Today's case study will look at a situation when these different stakeholders involved in a particular tourism resource have conflicting aims. So, do you recognise this site? Hopefully you have seen this before. It is Machu Picchu, one of Peru's iconic World Heritage Sites. That is certainly one of the more widely known World Heritage Sites on UNESCO's list. So it looks great in the picture. It's not always as quiet and empty and as peaceful. It attracts thousands of visitors every day, and this is having an impact on the local economy, the local environment as well. So at this stage, I will assign students into groups, small groups. They will read through an article, a short article about this, and then there'll be some discussion questions for them to go through. So once they've gone through these discussion questions, then it's a chance to for the class to benefit from the diversity that is often in GIS classrooms. So diverse backgrounds of students. Perhaps some students have been to Machu Picchu or have an awareness of other tourism sites that have similar issues here. But basically, it's to give students interactive opportunities to consider their own opinions, to share these with classmates, to try and justify their points of view, and perhaps to learn from other students, other groups as well. So that's the end of this introductory video, just a taste of the 100 level Introduction to Tourism Studies class and some of the issues we consider, as well as the approach in a lot of GIS classes. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it's been interesting for you. Hopefully see you in my class in the future.